Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Konich-Yeehaw podcast. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Jared.
And today, we're actually going to get just a little personal because we want to talk about our experiences as anime adults.
Yeah.
Being fans of animes and being an adult at the same time.
Yeah, because I feel like most experiences for an anime fan is kind of seen as through like the teen perspective.
Right.
But being an anime adult is a little different.
It's a little different, and obviously you can also apply maybe some of what we're saying to adults who are in other fandoms.
Like Disney.
Yes, Disney adults, Star Wars adults, which I guess is now Disney also.
Yeah.
But there are like overlapping things with that, but we wanted to talk about just how we feel as anime adults. I also thought maybe this could be fun for us to personally look back on in the future, because we're not old.
We're not old.
We're not old right now, but whenever we go to convention spaces, sometimes we feel old.
Oh, most definitely.
So, just to like kind of jump into it, we first want to talk about how we spend our money and how we decorate. Those kind of go hand in hand, right?
Oh, definitely.
So how we curate our space, because I know that a lot of the people that I went to high school with who aren't into anime probably have a different situation going on than all this art and figures and gunpla everywhere.
They might still have the stuffed animals though.
Maybe. But maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, probably not is the thing.
Yeah, maybe not as much.
Yeah. There's this, I guess, idea that, I mean, with the plushies in particular, that you let that go. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But going back to just how we decorate, I can't imagine living in a place that doesn't look like this, personally.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like, we made it look how we want it to look with all the art and stuff, right? But every once in a while, I do remember that typically when you are in your mid-20s, you probably don't have posters on your living room wall.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know, because like 20s is kind of the time to do that.
I guess that's fair.
Like, because we aren't quite like real adults yet. You know, we're still seen as, or I don't know, like, because I kind of have this fantasy of like, or this idea that like in your 20s you're supposed to try to figure it out.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
And then by the time that you're 30, you should have it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel like is the general idea.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, or maybe not, because there are a lot of people that are like, oh, you're 25, you should already have like a kid or two by now.
Yes, and we will get a little bit more into that later. But going back to how we decorate, though, and once again, hand in hand, how we spend our money. So, for example, let's say on average, a print costs maybe $20, 20 plus. Let's say 20 plus. I mean, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have 20 prints on our wall right now, on just one wall.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of money. And I think that that might seem cringe.
Yeah.
A little bit. But the other part of it is that, I mean, obviously we spent our money on things that we really like. We're not saying that we don't like absolutely love the stuff that we have. But I mean, we spend it on all of these independent artists as opposed to maybe a picture from IKEA.
Oh, yeah. I get what you mean.
You know.
Yeah, because like one of my friends that isn't like into anime, she has like some stuff that she has is like small taxidermy.
Right.
And like so like maybe like taxidermy bugs.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's not like anime, but that's still not necessarily that would be seen as more like adult though.
Yeah, well, you could stylize that in a way that's a little bit more adult. I know we kind of tried with framing some of our prints now, actually, instead of just sticking them on the wall.
There are a lot of things that are like, oh, you have this that might be seen as childish, such as like Legos.
Right.
You know, Legos are, for the most part, more recently they've been expanding Lego to be more adult-centered.
Right. The 18 plus Lego.
Yeah. But that's also kind of how like figures and, for me personally, Gunpla are. You know, Gunpla are like, they're model kits. They're not exactly toys, but like from the perspective of someone that isn't in the fandom,
right? They look like toys.
They just look like toys,
right?
And I've spent a lot of money on them.
A lot of money and time.
Yes, and time. Things that you spend your time on. That's another thing. Like, we cosplay.
Right.
We spend time and money on that for what the average person probably just sees as dressing up and like no different than Halloween.
Right.
So why are you spending weeks on it and over $100 on it? You know, it's kind of lame, like from an outside perspective.
Yeah.
From an outside perspective, I mean, there's definitely the idea of what an anime fan looks like, and that's not a cool person.
Yeah.
Though I will say this, I've kind of talked about my hobbies with like some of my coworkers, and they're always like, "Oh, that's so cool," which is a shocker to me.
Yeah, that is unusual.
Yeah, I'll be like, "Yeah, you know, I like build model kits. You know, it takes me like maybe like 24 hours to build it, and you know, this is what it looks like," or I'll show them like one of my cosplays, and they're like, "Oh, that's so cool," and I'm like, "What?" That's not the response I expected. But they're also around our age,
right? Yeah,
they're not into anime, but
they're more open-minded to like
to
different types of hobbies, I guess is the best way to put it. Yeah, for sure.
And figures. So figures are probably the number one thing that I can imagine someone on the outside looking in be like, why do you have this?
Oh my goodness. I definitely feel that because, and I'm sure you feel the same level of, I mean, let's call it embarrassment or whatever. Same level of embarrassment for some of your figures. The level of embarrassment that I feel for my Little Pony minifigures in their little plastic display case, I do feel embarrassment for that. But I also really like them. So.
Yeah, that's my thing, is that I'm not really embarrassed by mine. I think it's because I mostly don't interact with people that are outside of the fandom.
Right.
Like I guess I get a little embarrassed maybe with like trying to explain it to my parents. But other than that, like, I like all my figures, and
right, yeah.
I don't feel any
You're looking at a few of them right now.
The thing is that we've talked about it on our figures episode, how like I don't have any like raunchy figures. Right. And so it's not as embarrassing.
Definitely. I can agree with that.
Like now if I had like Super Sonico or something like that, then I have to hide that away, you know, whenever my friends come over or something like that. Right. But you know how it also goes into how you have them displayed.
Yeah, that's fair. I've seen a couple of people on Twitter. I follow somebody who has all of the My Little Pony Bishojo figures, and she has them. It's so adorable, actually. It's a hand-me-down antique case, like a wardrobe, antique case with the glass. from her grandma, and that's where she has all of her Bishoujo figures, and they take up the whole thing.
Nice.
And it's like classy, you know, like that's a classy person right there.
like for the most, let's see, we have a few figures over here, but not much. It's mostly just the Monster Hunter one.
Yeah.
But we have our figures on on shelves in front of books, and so like it just kind of all kind of melts together.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have it in a pretty good spot. Now, when I was in college, I had my figures on top of my
your dresser, right?
On top of my dresser. That looks a little worse. Because it's like I have a specific spot. It's just out in the open. Like that was like the key feature of my room.
Right. Yeah.
And that I was definitely like, how the hell am I going to bring girls over with this?
Right. So moving on to convention spaces.
Yeah.
And how we experience convention spaces now compared to how we have in the past as kids when we were first starting. Let's start with the cosplay. With the rise of Amazon cosplay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy, and we're not dissing it. It's actually really cool. Like if we had Amazon cosplay back in the day, things would have been a lot easier, you know.
Oh, most definitely.
Definitely. So it makes cosplay more accessible, right? And that's good. That is good. More people are able to dress up, and you don't necessarily have to have the skill. You maybe have to have some Christmas money.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'd say it's definitely mostly more accessible for like kids.
For kids,
or like people under the age of 18.
Definitely, right. Yeah, and maybe, you know, as a kid, you don't have time. Like I said,
you don't have the resources.
You don't have time, you don't have the resources, you don't have the skill. I mean, it could be anything, right? And being able to Amazon a character and get a full set, like a full set cosplay, wig, costume, accessories.
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything.
It's really nice. And I'm not dissing that. And if you do that, I understand it. I bought my first Amazon cosplay for our last convention, the Yuzurahara. And I put it on and I was like, I didn't have to do anything for this except for spend my money and style the wig. But making the costume and all the accessories, all I had to do was put it on. And it felt really nice, honestly. With that being said, most of the time you can spot an Amazon cosplay.
Oh, most definitely.
Most of the time, they are lower quality than something that you would make on your own.
Yeah, you've mentioned this before when we've talked about Amazon cosplays, how they don't look like clothes. Right,
they don't look like clothes, they look like costumes.
Yeah.
Once again, not dissing that, but we can kind of clock it. And I kind of have a question. And I mean, even I can go both ways on the question I'm about to ask. But do you think that the rise of the Amazon cosplay is taking away from the artistry of costume building in convention spaces?
Yes and no.
Right.
So it's making cosplay more accessible, which is always a good thing. It's making a gateway into cosplay easier.
Right.
So basically, it can go one of two ways. Either you can continue to buy your cosplays forever and ever, or you start out buying a cosplay and then segue your way into making your own.
Right.
So I actually think that this might help the art of cosplay.
Okay.
Because I think that this will be a way for people to get into it and then want to expand on it.
Right.
On top of that, this is one thing I was going to bring up, is that I actually think younger people are getting more skilled at cosplay than they used to be.
Oh, yeah.
The reason for that is because YouTube has a cosplay explanations for everything.
Everything.
Like, you can YouTube anything pretty much, and there's going to be a tutorial for it. And so I've seen a lot of skilled young cosplayers.
Definitely, yes. And I like building on to what you were saying with how buying a cosplay can lead to like wanting to develop the skill to make it more. I can imagine people buying a cosplay with the intention of, oh, I'm going to need to alter some things.
Oh, definitely.
Right. And that's the first stepping stone, right? I mean, that is how I did my first cosplays, is I would thrift clothes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then just alter them.
I still do that.
Yeah. I mean, we still do that. I mean, if it's easy, I mean, go ahead and do it. Right. You don't have to make garments from scratch. It's okay, guys. So yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with like yes and no kind of.
Yeah, I can see the perspective of, oh, you know, people aren't really cosplaying because they're not making it themselves. But I feel like that's kind of a shallow way of thinking it.
It is.
Thinking about it. Yeah, I think that this is good for cosplay.
Right. Yeah. Still on cosplay. As I'm getting older, I'm not recognizing as many cosplays.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And we talked about, for the most part, it's the rise of gacha games.
Yes.
Of Genshin, of Hololive, of things like that.
Yeah.
Most people are cosplaying characters from those IPs, and I'm just like simply not in that fandom.
Yeah.
But it's very popular with enough young kids that sometimes I feel pretty lost.
Oh, definitely. So one thing as well is that we're more particular about what we consume now. You know, growing up, you kind of find what you're into, and you don't, well, personally, whenever I was in college and before college, I felt like I needed to watch everything.
Right.
I was watching so many shows, every single, like, you know, I was watching weekly shows, and then I was also watching shows.
Catching up or whatever.
Yeah, and then I was also catching up on shows that I felt like I needed to watch. And I just don't feel like that anymore. I don't feel the need to have to be in the know on everything.
Right.
Which is great, because I was watching shows that weren't good. I was watching shows that I like started, and then I was like, this sucks. And then I was like, well, I may as well finish it.
Right.
And I just don't have to do that anymore. And it's so freeing. Right. We still watch a lot of shows.
We still watch a lot of anime.
But like, it's nowhere close to as much as I used to.
And it's so funny because I also feel like we watch a lot of anime that, I mean, when we go to convention spaces, we don't always see what we watch. And, you know, like,
it's because we don't watch like shonen.
That's just so crazy to me. That's just so crazy to me. Like, I know with the last thing we cosplayed, right, Hell's Paradise, that got pretty popular, and we did get recognized for that.
Yeah, but we didn't see really. We saw two other
Gabimarus, and they were also only Gabimarus.
Yeah.
So like they didn't do the other characters like how we did.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, for me personally, whenever I watched, or whenever the Maid Wars. Just came out, I genuinely thought I was gonna see other maids, and we did it.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to me, because that was such a good show.
Yeah, it was.
I just, things like that, where now it's like I cosplay what I want to cosplay, right? And we try to keep it current for the most part, but then like seems like nobody else is really cosplaying from it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how this used to be, because I kind of transitioned. Well, let's see. I'm trying to think of my cosplay journey.
Right.
I went back and forth between cosplaying what I wanted to cosplay, like not caring about it, and into cosplaying whatever is recent.
Right.
So now, for the most part, I cosplay things that are relevant, like what is currently airing or just finished airing.
Right.
While I used to cosplay just whatever I wanted, because I like getting pictures taken of me.
Right. Yeah, and that's like the fun part too, which is yeah, I mean, that's definitely the fun part. I remember whenever I was younger, me starting anime and me going to conventions happened pretty close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my first two cosplay. No, well, hold on. Let me think. Okay. My first two cosplays were Envy from Fullmetal Alchemist, because I was still in the middle of watching that at the time. Mm-hmm. And I am forgetting his name, and it's embarrassing. But from Naruto? From Naruto.
Kakashi.
And Kakashi. Now, here's the thing, is that I really liked Kakashi. I did. I was watching Naruto because I thought I had to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, guys. I wasn't actually a really big fan of Naruto, but I did cosplay as Kakashi because I thought I had to.
Yeah.
But
oh yeah, definitely. No,
I mean,
I definitely feel like if I'm gonna cosplay something, I need to watch it or
mm-hmm.
like be from it, or
right.
I have to know information from it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember. I think I did a cosplay that I was just like, I don't actually know. You know what? Technically, my Kamen Rider cosplay, I've watched one episode of the original Kamen Rider. I've watched Shin Kamen Rider.
You watched Shin,
and that's
right?
It when it comes to like original Kamen Rider.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a little bit of a fake fan in that.
In that one.
but I've watched other Kamen Riders, so I feel like it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Ultraman. I haven't watched a single episode of Ultraman.
You watched the movie though.
But I watched the movie.
That can be a little different sometimes.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So just like I guess how we approach cosplays, also how that's changed.
Actually, no. Think about it now. Shin Ultraman hadn't come out yet. So I had not watched.
You just wanted to make a helmet.
I just wanted to make a helmet. I just wanted to make a helmet.
Sometimes I do also get really attached to just a character's design.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I'm actually not really a big fan of the property, or I didn't watch or actually play the property, but I'll think that the character is really cool.
Yeah.
And I definitely think about it. I don't always go through with it, but I think about it. And I wonder if other people still do that also.
Yeah, I really would like to know if anyone has ever, put down below or whatever, if you've ever cosplayed a character that you have not seen any of the content for.
Yeah. No, I can't say that I have. Mm-hmm. I thought maybe I had, but I haven't. Regardless. And another thing that has kind of changed the convention space is social media.
Yeah.
Right? TikTok.
Yep. TikTok.
The kids are constantly filming TikToks. And I think that not just TikTok, but I will expand and just say like social media in general has definitely made it to where it kind of runs. It runs the convention space. It runs how fans. Okay, how do I want to say this? It seems like a lot of fans are so focused on creating content while they are cosplaying.
Yeah.
Whereas whenever I was a beginner cosplayer, that was nowhere on my mind.
Oh, same.
I liked pictures. I would take a mirror selfie, right?
Yeah, no. But, you know what I did? I would, day after convention is over, week after convention is over, I would go to the convention Facebook page and scroll through every single picture to see if anyone posted a picture of me.
Right. So it kind of wasn't up to ourselves to post pictures of ourselves. We kind of depended on other people seeing us and posting our picture.
Yeah.
And I remember at my first convention, which was A-Kon, I took up pictures of a lot of different people and I posted them on Instagram and they all found me.
Yeah.
They say, hey, that's me. And then I would tag them. But essentially that's how I spent my convention. That was taking pictures of other people, and I was not very concerned about recording myself in any way. I think I kind of hoped that other people would do that for me.
Mm-hmm.
But just like in my brain, that's like how I was thinking. And now, I mean, people still do take pictures of other cosplays.
Yeah.
But
we don't, though. We really don't.
I like to.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time I make you take pictures of me.
No. I mean that we really don't take pictures of other people.
Of other people. That's true.
Yeah.
And post them is the other thing.
Yeah.
Is that even if I do take pictures of cosplay now, I'll send it to my friends,
mm-hmm.
you know, or my sister or something, right? I won't post it on Instagram and just be like, cool cosplay I saw at this convention, and then maybe they see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think obviously social media has made us a lot more aware of our image, of how we look.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's like, I don't want to say it's like a bad thing.
I think it is. I'll be the bad guy here. I think it is. I think it's a bad thing.
I don't think it's a bad thing that we now want to record ourselves
mm-hmm.
in any way, because I want to say that the first convention where I seriously put thought into how I wanted to put this on the internet later
mm-hmm.
was it was the first Acon at the Water Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I had my cosplays put together, and I made my sibling take so many pictures of me. I'm talking action shots. I'm like different locations, and I posted all of those on my Instagram, and I was so proud of those pictures, and I still am. I'm still proud of some of those pictures. But that was definitely the first time that I was like, I need to take good pictures for Instagram.
I'm so bad at getting pictures of myself. I'm so bad at getting pictures of myself. And I don't know why. You know, I've like, I'll like think of poses for other people to, I think it's because I used to go to conventions by myself.
That's fair. Yeah.
And so I didn't have anyone that could take pictures with me.
Say like, hey, can you take this? Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And so I did have to rely on other people.
Right.
Because, you know, TikTok wasn't a thing yet. So putting your phone on the wall and doing a little silly dance was not the norm.
Mm-hmm.
But now it is.
Yes,
and
now it is.
I think that it's a little harmful.
Yeah.
Because I think it kind of ruins part of cosplay, which is that it's for yourself.
Right.
So a big part of cosplay is that you should have your own self-worth in it.
Mm-hmm.
So you shouldn't have to so when you attach that to social media, and then that gets comments, that gets likes, the number of likes that you get, you know, you now put your self-worth in the position of others.
Right.
Which is, you know, ironic coming from someone like myself who has this podcast, who wants to, you know,
wants to be perceived on the internet.
Perceived on the internet. But like, that's just the truth of it.
It is, yeah.
Like, younger people are now trying to put themselves out there, and it's not necessarily healthy for their like own self-image.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of creeps on the internet, and
yes,
a lot of minors at cosplay or anime conventions.
Yes, a lot. Definitely. Kind of, I wanted to tie this into a little bit of what we're saying about this whole, how kind of the image that we have of ourselves whenever we cosplay. That has changed.
Oh, significantly.
Because, I mean, to put it bluntly, we've gained a lot of weight.
We have. You can look back at old of our like early recordings, and you can visibly see a difference.
I wasn't even thinking that's soon.
Well,
far
that
back.
It is for me.
It is for
you. For
you.
me, you can see a difference.
Okay, that's fair. I'm thinking of like whenever I started. I mean, obviously I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like, obviously our body was going to change, right? I mean, like, it's inevitable, but it does. And this is totally just like, we are speaking for ourselves and not for anybody else.
Yeah.
By the way, we're not like cosplay purists or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes whenever we see ourselves in a cosplay, we can get a little
Yeah, because we don't look like the character.
We don't look like the character anymore. And we kind of, we used to both be really skinny.
I used to look like an anime character.
Right, yeah.
Like, I had like, I had like no fat on, like I had like
your bones.
I had really low fat percentage. I had really low muscle percentage.
Right.
So my legs were incredibly skinny. My waist was really thin. Same with my arms. So I was built like an anime character.
Right.
And I just don't look like that anymore. I don't look like the characters anymore.
Right.
And so it kind of...
Which is all just, like I said, I really want to just clarify. We're talking about us.
Yes. So, but this is us, but I can imagine a lot of people feel this way.
Yeah.
That they're put off by cosplay because they don't feel like they look like the character.
They really don't look like the character. It's just, like I said, especially hard whenever you used to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I mean, sometimes I do put on a cosplay and I'm like, dang, it looks a little different.
Yeah.
Oops.
I mean, like, for me personally, I've gotten a lot of fat around my face.
Mm-hmm.
And so without a beard, I just don't like how it looks. My jaw isn't very defined. And so it's disheartening.
Right.
But what matters is that you're enjoying yourself.
Right, of course.
What matters is that you're enjoying yourself.
Right.
And if you should... and this is actually one thing about making your cosplay versus buying it, is that when you make your cosplay, you have a little bit of more... you had the enjoyment of building it.
Right.
So then you have a finished product and you're like, I made this.
You made that. Yeah.
Which you don't necessarily get with a bought one.
Right.
But that's how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I may not look like the character as much anymore, but I still put a lot of effort into it.
Yes, we still put effort into it, and we still have fun at the conventions.
Yeah,
dressed up. I mean, and like I said, I'm sure we look fine.
Yeah,
it's all in our heads, and
it is all in our heads,
and we know that. We know that. I mean, step one, we shower. We're already so far ahead of most of the anime crowd.
For real,
so,
yeah.
like, we know that it's all in our heads, and sometimes it does just get really frustrating.
Yeah.
To like now have that like personal obstacle, I guess, to
overcome.
What
too is that depending on your size, like I've gained a little weight, but I'm also tall, and so finding a bot or a pre-made anime costume is a little harder.
It is a little harder now. Yeah, I had to send back the one Amazon cosplay that I bought. I had to send it back because it was too small.
Yeah,
and I just underestimated that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, anyway, on a little bit more of a closing note, and to get just a little bit more personal, how does being an adult in the anime fandom make you feel? I know that's very vague, but so I'll go first so you can think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I do sometimes think that I am old. I know I'm not old, but sometimes when we go to conventions, most of the time when I say in the fan space, I am thinking of conventions just because I'm not really on many, like I'm not on anime Reddit, or I know you are, but regardless,
yeah,
it does sometimes make me feel old. I feel like I don't have as much in common with some of the people in the anime space, but at the same time, I know and I see them. I'm not saying that they're invisible.
Yeah,
I see the people who are our age, who are at the conventions, and I'm not gonna let some of them have kids, and that scares me. But
yeah, I know,
but
right?
Regardless, I see them, and it does make me feel better that we're not just like some weird adults. Like there's a lot of us. There is a lot of us.
And we also see people a lot older than us.
And we do see people a lot older than us. I've seen grandparents. Yeah, still cosplaying at anime conventions. So it is like, it can be hopeful, I guess. And on that note also, I enjoy, this is like super specific, but whenever we cosplayed as Ranma, which is an anime from the 80s, it's old, the amount of older people that came up to us and were like, I haven't seen a Ranma cosplay in 20 years.
I know.
It felt kind of good. It felt kind of good.
It did feel pretty good.
It did feel pretty good. Yeah. To be like, yes, like, and I'm hoping that whenever I'm even older, I'll still see, I don't know, like Full Metal Alchemist cosplays.
Black Butler cosplay.
I'll still see Black Butler cosplays, and I'll be like, I haven't seen one of those in 20 years. Just like them.
A group of Oron
kids. Yeah. So I don't know. That feels nice.
Yeah.
That feels nice as being like the age that I am and being in this space. Yeah.
The thing is that we're at a weird age for convention spaces. I'd say that the average we are the average age of an anime fan, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, I think based off of the anime survey that we did at the last convention,
right?
The average fan is somewhere between 18 and 26. Or
was it 36?
No, it was like somewhere between mid 20s.
Okay.
Mid 20s is the average anime fan. And that's where we are right now. But the thing is that it doesn't feel that way at conventions.
Right.
Because we see people that are older than us and we see people that are younger than us. And the people that are our age might have kids, things like that. Also, you do not look your age in cosplay.
No.
Like, your age, like, your perception of how old someone is in cosplay is super skewed.
Right.
And
there are many factors.
Yes. And that's another weird thing about being our age, is that a lot of anime characters are teens.
Right. Yeah.
And so, being in your 20s,
and
cosplaying a teenager, or vice versa, these minors cosplaying sexy characters,
right?
Like, it makes a weird space.
Yeah.
And we're in this spot where we're not quite anime veterans and that had to watch anime through pirated VHS tapes that they found on eBay. But we're not like anime teens. We're not like new into the space to where we're like Genshin fans and watching shows or, cosplaying from like our first cosplay and things like that. And so we don't quite fit there either.
Right.
And it's just kind of a weird space. Just kind of a weird space.
I see. Yeah, I can agree with that.
Especially when it comes to who we cosplay.
Right.
Like, I'm kind of like, this also comes back to like how our bodies have changed and things like that. I've like kind of started to steer away from high school characters. So I've started doing more like armor, things like that.
Right.
Which isn't to say they aren't high school characters. The next character that I want to cosplay is a high school kid.
Right.
But I think we're also watching more anime. Excuse me. I'm watching more anime that might be more adult oriented. Granted, we still watch our high school.
We gotta watch the high school.
We gotta watch Horimiya and
yeah, right.
We still watch our high school rom-coms. But we're less likely to cosplay.
We're definitely less likely to cosplay. We can love the characters, but also at the end of the day, I mean, high school characters do not make a riveting costume.
Yeah, that too.
They do not. They're Like we cosplayed from Komi Can't Communicate.
Yeah.
Which is just a very basic high school cosplay.
Which I will say people did recognize
yes,
you, though.
people did recognize us.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, you could reuse that for anybody.
Yeah.
Because the high school main character boy always looks the same.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just you can love the characters, and it's kind of a boring cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, lastly, I kind of wanted to just talk about the idea, the concept of young adult, because I was thinking about it, and to me, I am 25, almost 26. I am a young adult. To me. I see myself as a young adult. But for most people, when you think of the term young adult, you think of the literary term. You think of YA, young adult, novels. And who are those novels marketed towards? People who are 13 to 18.
Yeah. Which I want to say is not an adult.
Not an adult. Not an adult. But young adult novels are marketed towards teenagers. Is what I'm getting at. And that has definitely, like, that is common knowledge, I guess is what I should say, right? And because of this common knowledge everybody has, I think that a lot of, we'll call it normies, maybe view all of us in the anime space as still childish.
Yeah.
Right? And because I see myself as a young adult, maybe they think that there's this idea that I still see myself as childish. But I don't necessarily see myself as like super childish. I see myself as an adult who is not very old.
Yeah.
Right? But I do think that participating in fandom spaces and putting our energy and our effort and our time and stuff like that into fandom spaces is keeping us youthful. And that isn't a bad thing.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
I think that we should be allowed to age slower if we want to. There is this pressure, this like societal pressure to, at our age, already have kids, already have a mortgage, have a career. But we are young adults. Like, we still have time to just enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that taking this time to move slower right now is going to lead to a fuller adulthood. Getting super philosophical here. I know. What I'm saying is that I think that in the long run, this is good.
Yeah.
And it's allowing us to accept joy into our lives and not, I mean, obviously we do still feel some like weight crushing from society. I mean, we have rent to pay. Hello. But I think it's nice that we still know how to have some fun.
Yeah.
Right? We're not so serious. I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think that's it for today's episode. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Konich-Yeehaw podcast. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Jared.
And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.